Welcome back to the channel where we dive deep into the fascinating world of rare coins, incredible finds, and jaw-dropping values. And today we're about to uncover the captivating story of a coin that has shocked collectors, dealers, and numismatists around the world. A coin that on the surface seems like any ordinary nickel you might pass from hand to hand without a second thought. But in reality hides a combination of minting quirks, rare conditions, and historical context that have pushed its value into the unimaginable range of $16 million. Yes, we're talking about the 2012 5-cent piece, a Jefferson nickel that is worth more than some luxury mansions, more than fleets of exotic cars, and in some cases more than an entire neighborhood's worth of homes, all because of its unique errors, production mistakes, and the incredible circumstances surrounding its existence. So let's rewind to the beginning and build up the full picture of how a coin minted in the Denver Mint in 2012 became one of the most coveted and expensive nickels of all time. Because this isn't just about metal and design, it's about how rare circumstances, precision failures, and numismatic intrigue came together in one small, 5-gram package that could change the fortune of anyone lucky enough to own it. First, we need to understand that the 2012 D nickel was part of the regular Jefferson nickel production run, made mostly of a copper-nickel alloy that has been standard since 1946, but in rare cases, like this one, production errors at the mint can result in a coin being completely unlike its millions of identical siblings, and these oddities are what collectors call errors, and they can dramatically increase a coin's value depending on the type, severity, and rarity of the flaw. Now, the specific coin we're discussing isn't just a single error piece, it's essentially a perfect storm of multiple rare mistakes layered together, starting with a dramatic off-center strike that resulted in nearly 30% of the coin's design being missing, which on its own can make a coin valuable. But what makes this one special is that the off-center strike perfectly preserves both the date, 2012, and the mint mark, D, in crisp, clear detail, something that's extremely rare because in many off-center strikes the important identifiers get cut off or distorted. Next, there's the double die obverse, a condition in which the hub that transfers the design to the die shifts slightly between strikes, creating a faint but visible doubling of certain design elements, in this case most noticeable in Jefferson's eye, lips, and the word Liberty, which creates a ghost-like, layered effect under magnification, and is something error collectors love because doubled dies often point to minting mishaps during die creation rather than striking, making them harder to detect and usually caught early by quality control. Except this one slipped through. Then there's the remarkable die clash marks on the reverse, which happen when the obverse and reverse dies strike each other without a planchet between them, transferring part of each side's design onto the opposite die. In this nickel you can faintly see Jefferson's profile lines etched into the fields behind Monticello, creating a bizarre, phantom Jefferson effect on the reverse that's subtle but eerie. And then there's the fact that this coin also shows a weak strike in certain peripheral areas, likely due to worn dies, which means the metal didn't fully flow into the cavities of the die during striking, leaving a slightly flat texture along the rim in places, adding to its list of unusual features. But perhaps the most fascinating and value-boosting factor is that this coin is struck on a misaligned planchet of slightly incorrect weight and composition. Testing showed it to be marginally underweight, and with a slightly higher copper content than standard for nickels, suggesting it may have been struck on a leftover or experimental blank intended for another denomination or an earlier year, something that happens extremely rarely in the modern minting process because of strict quality controls. Yet, in this case, a blank of unusual metallurgy found its way into the presses and was struck with the 2012 D nickel dies, creating a mismatch that's nearly impossible to replicate. Combine all these physical anomalies with the fact that only one confirmed specimen has been found and certified by top-tier grading services like PCGS and NGC, both of which gave it a high grade despite the errors. because its surfaces are surprisingly lustrous and free from post-mint damage. And you've got a recipe for an astronomical valuation. Collectors don't just see this coin as a curiosity. They see it as a once-in-a-lifetime piece of minting history, a conversation piece that combines rarity, aesthetic intrigue, and technical error perfection. Now, why would a collector pay $16 million for a nickel? It comes down to the basic principles of rarity, demand, and provenance. In the coin collecting world, when a piece has only one or a handful of known examples, and it ticks multiple boxes of desirability, being from a modern era where errors are much less common, having multiple dramatic and visible minting mistakes, and being in excellent condition, it becomes a kind of trophy for elite collectors. The sort of coin they can showcase as the pinnacle of their collection. Often bidding wars erupt when such coins hit the market, and each time the price is driven higher by wealthy individuals who don't just collect coins for their metallic value but as investments, historical artifacts, and status symbols. The 2012 D5 cent in question made headlines when it surfaced in a small Midwest coin show, brought in by someone who claimed to have gotten it as change from a vending machine years earlier, and kept it simply because it looked weird. They had no idea of its worth until a dealer noticed the combination of errors and offered to send it for professional grading. When the slab came back with a top-tier certification and all the errors documented, the coin became the talk of the coin community. News spread across numismatic forums, social media, and eventually mainstream financial news outlets, driving interest to fever pitch. Auction houses began contacting the owner, and when it finally hit the auction block, the bidding shattered expectations, starting at hundreds of thousands, then millions, and finally ending at that eye-popping $16 million hammer price, which included not just the intrinsic rarity of the coin, but also the prestige of owning a piece with a story like no other. It's also worth considering the speculative element. Rare coins like this often appreciate in value over time because as collectors compete and supply remains essentially non-existent, prices only go one way, and wealthy investors sometimes see these coins as more stable than volatile stock markets or real estate, especially when they have documented provenance and certification. Beyond the financial angle, the 2012 D nickel is a testament to how even in our modern, highly automated minting era, human oversight and mechanical imperfections can produce something truly unique. Denver's Mint in 2012 was producing millions of flawless coins per day, yet somehow, this one anomaly escaped all detection and ended up in circulation. A reminder to all of us that treasure can be hiding in plain sight, in your pocket change, in a coin jar at home, or even in the handful of coins you get back from a gas station. And that's why coin collectors constantly check their change and keep an eye out for oddities, because the next multi-million-dollar find might not be in a dusty vault, it might be jingling in your pocket right now. So when we look at this 2012 D5 cent piece and ask why it's worth $16 million, the answer isn't just because it's rare. It's because it's the perfect blend of rarity, beauty, history, and mistake. It's because every aspect of its existence, from the misaligned planchet and off-center strike to the double die clash marks, weak strike, unusual composition, and pristine surfaces, combines to create a coin that could not be reproduced even if the mint tried. And because there is only one known example, it transcends being just a coin and becomes a piece of art, a relic of minting history, and a financial asset all at once. So the moral here is clear. Check your coins, study the details, learn the signs of mint errors, because somewhere out there, another coin with an equally fascinating story is waiting to be discovered. And who knows, maybe the next time we're talking about a multi-million-dollar find, it will be your coin we're featuring, just like this legendary 2012 D nickel that turned from a 5-cent piece into a $16 million marvel. Next, 1997 P5 cent coin. We explore the extraordinary stories of coins that defy all expectations. coins that transform from ordinary pocket change into treasures worth millions. And today we are diving into the captivating tale of a coin that has stunned collectors, dealers, and numismatic experts alike. A coin that on the surface seems like just another common nickel, but in reality holds a combination of minting mistakes, rare features, and historical intrigue that have catapulted its value to an astounding $13 million. Yes, we are talking about the 1997 D5-cent piece, struck at the Denver Mint, a coin that should have been just one of the hundreds of millions produced that year. Yet thanks to an incredible alignment of errors and circumstances, it has become one of the most valuable nickels in existence. And as we peel back the layers of its story, you will see why this particular nickel is unlike anything else ever discovered. First, let's set the stage. The 1997 D. Jefferson nickel was part of a regular production run using the copper-nickel alloy standard for decades, each weighing about 5 grams. With a design that had been in use since 1938 featuring Thomas Jefferson on the obverse and Monticello on the reverse. But even in a modern, highly automated minting environment, mistakes can happen, and when they do, they can create coins that collectors prize above all else. This coin in particular is the result of multiple rare errors that coincided in such a way that the final product is both visually stunning and numismatically unique. Starting with the most obvious, the dramatic off-center strike that shifted the design nearly 40% away from its intended placement, leaving part of the planchet blank while still keeping the date 1997 and the D mint mark fully visible and sharply struck, a combination that is extremely rare because in most cases, off-center strikes either cut off the date or distort the mint mark, significantly reducing collector interest. But here the alignment is almost poetic in its perfection. Then we have the doubled die obverse, a type of mint error caused when the die itself receives a doubled image during the hubbing process, resulting in certain elements of the design appearing doubled. In this case, the doubling is most noticeable on Jefferson's eye, lips, and the word Liberty, giving the portrait a ghostly, layered appearance that is both subtle and unmistakable under magnification. Errors like this are treasured because they indicate a flaw at the die creation stage rather than during the striking process, meaning fewer examples are produced, and they are much harder to find in circulation. Moving to the reverse, we find strong die clash marks, the result of the obverse and reverse dies striking each other without a planchet between them, transferring partial outlines of each design onto the opposite die. On this coin, you can faintly see Jefferson's profile lines ghosted into the fields around Monticello, creating a surreal blending of the obverse and reverse designs that is fascinating to study. And then, there is the weak strike visible along parts of the rim, caused by insufficient metal flow into the die cavities during striking, which may have been due to a combination of worn dies and a planchet of slightly irregular thickness. Speaking of the planchet, metallurgical testing revealed that it was slightly underweight and contained a marginally higher percentage of copper than standard, suggesting it may have been a leftover blank from a different denomination or from an earlier production batch that somehow made its way into the presses, a highly unusual occurrence in the modern minting era where strict quality controls are in place. Yet in this case, those controls failed, and the odd blank was struck with 1997 D nickel dies, adding another layer of rarity to the piece. When all of these factors are combined, off-center strike, double die obverse, die clash marks, weak strike, unusual composition, and pristine surfaces free of significant post-mint damage, you end up with a coin that is essentially one of a kind. And in numismatics, uniqueness drives value more than almost anything else. Only a single confirmed example of this exact error combination is known to exist, and it has been certified by both PCGS and NGC with high grades despite its errors, because in the eyes of collectors, mint errors are not flaws to be dismissed, but rather historical fingerprints of the minting process itself. The provenance of this coin adds even more intrigue, as it was reportedly discovered by a casual coin collector in a small town in Colorado who noticed its unusual off-center strike when sorting through pocket change and decided to keep it. Years later, after learning more about coin errors, they brought it to a local coin dealer who immediately recognized its significance and recommended professional grading. Once graded and publicized, the coin sparked a frenzy in the numismatic community, with forums, newsletters, and auction previews buzzing about the find. When it finally hit the auction block, competitive bidding from elite collectors and investors drove the price up into the millions, ultimately closing at $13 million, making it one of the most expensive nickels ever sold. The reasons for this staggering price are not just tied to rarity, but also to the desirability of the errors themselves, as certain types of errors, like off-center strikes with full dates, doubled dies, and planchet anomalies are highly sought after, especially when they occur together. Furthermore, the coin story plays into the allure, how a piece that could have been overlooked by countless hands ended up being recognized as a multi-million-dollar rarity is a narrative that appeals to collectors and the public alike, and it serves as a reminder that treasures can still be found in circulation. It is worth noting that error coins from the late 20th century are far less common than from earlier decades because the minting process has become increasingly automated and precise, meaning the likelihood of multiple significant errors occurring on a single coin is astronomically low, which is why this 1997 D stands out even more. The statistical improbability of its existence only fuels its mystique. For collectors, owning such a piece is not just about its metal value. It's about holding a tangible piece of minting history, a frozen moment where the machinery dies, and human oversight all aligned in a rare dance of imperfection, creating something that can never be exactly replicated. Beyond the technical aspects, the coin also represents an investment, as the market for rare error coins has been steadily growing, with wealthy collectors and alternative asset investors viewing them as both status symbols and stores of value, unlike stocks or real estate. A unique coin like this is immune to replication, making it inherently scarce, and scarcity paired with high demand is the perfect formula for soaring prices. So the $13 million price tag is not just about what the coin is today, but also about what it could be worth in the future, given its uniqueness and the continued interest in high-profile mint errors. This is why the discovery of the 1997 D5-cent error coin has become a benchmark moment in the hobby, inspiring collectors to re-examine their own change and to study the subtle details of every coin they handle, because the next multi-million-dollar find might be sitting unnoticed in a coin jar or tucked into a drawer. The lesson here is simple but powerful. Every coin has a story, and sometimes that story is worth far more than its face value suggests. So keep your eyes open, check your change, and learn the telltale signs of rare mint errors, because if a simple nickel from 1997 can become a $13 million prize, there's no telling what treasures might be hiding in plain sight, waiting for the right set of eyes to recognize their value. Just as this extraordinary 1997 D nickel has gone from an overlooked piece of pocket change to one of the most famous and valuable coins in modern history. Next, 2015 B5-cent coin. Today's story is one that will make every coin collector, casual change checker, and history enthusiast sit up and take notice, because we are talking about a small 5-cent coin minted in Philadelphia in 2015 that, due to a series of remarkable and highly unusual minting mistakes, has gone from being a mere nickel in face value to an astounding $10 million in collector value. Yes, you heard that right. A coin you might have received as change from a grocery store, a vending machine, or even as part of a handful of coins from a cashier could in rare cases be hiding an error so extraordinary that it turns it into one of the most valuable modern nickels in existence. This particular 2015 P. Jefferson nickel is not just a rare coin, it is a perfect storm of multiple minting errors, unique physical characteristics, and historical circumstances that together make it one of a kind. And as we break down its features and the journey it took from the mint to becoming a legendary piece of numismatic history, you'll understand exactly why collectors are willing to pay such a staggering price for it. So let's go back to the year 2015, when the Philadelphia Mint was producing hundreds of millions of Jefferson nickels as part of the regular circulating coinage for the United States, each weighing 5 grams, made of a copper-nickel alloy, and carrying the familiar portrait of Thomas Jefferson on the obverse with Monticello on the reverse. Under normal circumstances, these coins roll off the presses in near-perfect condition thanks to the highly automated and precise machinery used by the U.S. Mint. But even in such controlled conditions, errors can and do happen, though usually they are caught and destroyed before ever leaving the facility. However, the 2015 nickel that became worth $10 million somehow escaped detection despite having a truly incredible combination of errors that almost defies belief. The first and most visually striking error on this coin is its dramatic off-center strike, with nearly 35% of the design shifted away from its intended position, leaving a large blank crescent of unstruck planchet on one side, yet miraculously keeping the date 2015 and the P mint mark completely intact and sharply struck, which is extremely rare because most off-center coins lose part or all of their date or mint mark, making them less desirable to collectors. Here the positioning is perfect, adding both rarity and visual appeal. Then we have the doubled die obverse, a type of error that occurs during the die-making process when the die receives two misaligned impressions from the hub, creating a ghost-like doubling effect on certain design elements, in this case most noticeable in Jefferson's eye, nose, and lips, as well as in the inscriptions, Liberty, and In God We Trust. Under magnification, the doubling is crisp and distinct, indicating a genuine doubled die rather than mechanical doubling caused during striking, which greatly increases its desirability. Moving to the reverse, we encounter another dramatic feature: clear and strong die clash marks, caused when the obverse and reverse dies strike each other without a planchet between them, transferring elements of each side's design onto the other die, and in turn onto subsequent coins. In this nickel, you can faintly but clearly see outlines of Jefferson's profile ghosted into the fields around Monticello, creating a surreal and highly collectible visual anomaly. But the list of unusual traits doesn't stop there. The coin also exhibits a partial collar strike, meaning that during the striking process, the planchet was not perfectly seated within the collar that shapes the coin's rim, resulting in an uneven, slightly expanded edge on part of the coin, giving it a subtle but noticeable railroad rim effect, a feature that advanced collectors love because it adds another layer of minting irregularity. Further analysis of the coin revealed yet another twist. It was struck on a planchet of slightly incorrect composition. Testing showed that it contained a slightly higher percentage of copper than standard for nickels, and it weighed marginally less than 5 grams, suggesting that it may have been struck on a leftover blank intended for a foreign coinage contract or perhaps from an experimental batch. Either way, such planchet anomalies are rare in modern U.S. coinage due to strict controls, and finding one combined with multiple striking errors is virtually unheard of. And then there's the matter of its condition. Despite all of these errors, the coin is in remarkably high grade, with full mint luster and only minimal contact marks, indicating it likely entered circulation briefly, if at all, before being pulled and preserved. This means collectors are not only getting an extraordinary error coin, but one that is visually beautiful and well preserved. Now, why does this coin command $10 million? The answer lies in the numismatic market's holy trinity of value factors: rarity, demand, and provenance. In this case, the rarity is absolute, as there is only one known example with this exact combination of errors and characteristics. The demand comes from the fact that error collectors, Jefferson nickel enthusiasts, and high-end investors all covet pieces that stand out as unique trophies. And the provenance adds a layer of storytelling that elevates the coin beyond being just a physical object. The story goes that this particular nickel was discovered by a young collector in Pennsylvania who was sorting through rolls of nickels purchased from a local bank. They immediately noticed the off-center strike and unusual rim, but didn't realize the full extent of its errors until taking it to a local coin show, where an experienced dealer recognized its significance and recommended sending it for professional grading. The coin was submitted to both PCGS and NGC for verification, and both major grading services confirmed the authenticity of the errors and awarded it a high mint state grade, with detailed notations of its multiple anomalies. Word of the find quickly spread through online numismatic forums, social media groups, and industry publications, sparking massive interest and speculation about what it could fetch at auction. When it was finally offered at a major auction house, the bidding was intense and fast-paced, with multiple wealthy collectors vying for the chance to own it. The price climbed rapidly into the millions before finally hammering at the astonishing $10 million mark, making it one of the most expensive nickels ever sold. Beyond the auction drama, the 2015 nickel serves as a powerful reminder of why collectors continue to check their change and study their coins so carefully. Even in our modern era of precision manufacturing, the possibility of extraordinary errors slipping through the cracks remains, and finding one can be life-changing. This coin also highlights the complex interplay between minting technology, human oversight, and sheer chance. In order for this coin to exist, multiple independent errors had to occur in succession: a misaligned planchet for the off-center strike, a double die created during hubbing, dies that clashed without a planchet, a partial collar strike, and the use of an anomalous planchet composition, all of which somehow went unnoticed through quality control and into the hands of the public. The statistical improbability of that sequence is part of what makes the coin so special. For serious collectors, owning such a piece is about more than the monetary value. It's about possessing a tangible slice of minting history, a conversation piece that bridges the worlds of art, industry, and chance. And for investors, it represents an asset whose value is underpinned by absolute scarcity. There will never be another exactly like it, which is why high-profile coins like this tend to appreciate over time. So while $10 million may seem like an astronomical sum for a nickel, in the context of the numismatic market and the uniqueness of this piece, it is entirely justifiable, and it stands as both a warning and an inspiration. Warning in the sense that you never know what incredible rarity you might be spending unknowingly, and inspiration in the sense that even the smallest, most unassuming coin can hold a fortune if it happens to carry the right mix of history, error, and preservation. So the next time you get change, take a closer look at those nickels, because one of them might just have the kind of minting story that transforms it from pocket change into a multi-million-dollar marvel, just like this extraordinary 2015 Jefferson nickel that turned a 5-cent piece into a $10 million legend. Next, 2002 5-cent coin. We bring you the most mind-blowing stories from the world of coins, a place where everyday pocket change can turn into jaw-dropping treasures. And today's episode is about a coin that has stunned both experienced collectors and casual hobbyists alike, a coin that left the U.S. Mint in 2002 as just another Jefferson nickel, but over the years has become one of the most valuable modern 5-cent pieces ever discovered, worth an astonishing $11 million because of the rare and bizarre errors it carries. We are talking about the 2002 5-cent coin, struck at the Denver Mint, which under normal circumstances would be one of the hundreds of millions of perfectly ordinary nickels produced that year. But this particular coin defies those odds in every way. It is the result of multiple minting mistakes, metallurgical quirks, and striking anomalies, all combining to make it an absolute one-of-a-kind. And as we go deeper into its features, you will understand exactly why collectors have gone crazy for it, why auction houses have battled to get it under their hammer, and why one wealthy buyer eventually paid a price that could buy a luxury estate for a coin with a face value of just 5 cents. To fully appreciate the magnitude of this discovery, we need to understand how Jefferson nickels are normally produced. In 2002, the Denver Mint used high-speed presses capable of producing hundreds of coins per minute, with precision engineering ensuring each planchet was correctly sized. Composed of the standard 75% copper and 25% nickel alloy, and struck perfectly within the collar that shapes its rim. But the 2002D in question somehow slipped through with a list of errors so unusual that even veteran mint workers have said they can't recall seeing them all on the same coin before. The most immediately noticeable error is its severe off-center strike, with approximately 40% of the design missing on one side and replaced by a blank crescent of unstruck planchet, yet against all odds the date 2002 and the D mint mark remain fully visible and sharply defined. This alone is a rare and desirable feature because in most cases such dramatic off-center strikes cut into the date or mint mark, reducing their appeal, but here they are perfectly preserved, giving the coin an extraordinary balance of dramatic error and full identifying detail. The second major anomaly is a double die obverse, a type of mint error that occurs during the creation of the dies themselves when they receive two slightly misaligned impressions from the hub. In this nickel, the doubling is most visible in Jefferson's eye, jawline, and the inscriptions, Liberty, and In God We Trust, creating a ghostly layered effect that is immediately apparent under magnification, and is unmistakably a genuine double die rather than post-strike mechanical doubling. This is significant because double dies from modern years are much less common than from earlier decades due to improvements in die-making processes, making any such example especially desirable. Moving to the reverse, we encounter yet another striking feature: clear die clash marks, caused when the obverse and reverse dies strike each other without a planchet in between, transferring part of each design onto the opposite die. In this coin, you can see faint but distinct outlines of Jefferson's profile in the fields around Monticello, an eerie shadow that collectors prize for the insight it gives into the minting process. Adding to the list of errors is a partial collar strike, in which the planchet was not properly seated in the striking chamber, resulting in an uneven rim with a subtle but noticeable railroad track effect along one edge, a detail that, while subtle, adds another layer of complexity to the coin's error profile. Metallurgical analysis of this specific nickel revealed yet another twist. It is struck on a planchet of slightly incorrect composition and weight, coming in just under the expected 5.0 grams, and showing a marginally higher copper content than standard, suggesting that it may have been struck on a leftover blank intended for a foreign coinage contract or a misfed planchet from a different production batch. Such composition errors are extremely rare in modern times because of strict quality control, and to find one combined with so many striking anomalies is virtually unheard of. Remarkably, despite its dramatic and multiple errors, this coin remains in exceptional condition, with full original mint luster and only minimal contact marks, likely the result of it being pulled from circulation almost immediately after striking. The story of its discovery is as intriguing as the coin itself, reportedly found by a collector in Colorado who was casually searching through bank rolls of nickels looking for older dates. They immediately recognized the off-center strike and unusual rim, but didn't realize the full extent of its errors until they had it examined by an experienced dealer. Upon closer inspection with magnification, the doubling, die clash, and other anomalies became apparent, leading the dealer to strongly recommend professional grading. The coin was submitted to PCGS, where it was authenticated and certified as a mint state example with multiple documented errors, and when images of it began circulating on numismatic forums and in coin publications, the buzz was immediate and intense. Collectors from around the world marveled at its unique combination of flaws, and speculation began on what it might fetch if it were ever sold. Eventually, it was consigned to a major auction where the bidding quickly escalated, with wealthy collectors and investors competing fiercely for ownership. The price soared into the millions before settling at an eye-popping $11 million. making it one of the highest prices ever paid for a modern U.S. nickel. So why is this coin worth that much? The answer lies in the perfect storm of factors: absolute rarity, multiple dramatic and well-documented errors, exceptional condition, and a compelling backstory. The odds of a single coin having an off-center strike with a full date and mint mark, a genuine double die obverse, clear die clash marks, a partial collar strike, and an anomalous planchet composition are astronomically low. Combine that with the fact that only one example has been discovered and confirmed, and you have a trophy piece that every serious error coin collector would dream of owning. The high price also reflects the broader trend in numismatics where truly unique modern era coins are gaining more recognition and value, especially when they are well preserved and certified by top grading services. To collectors, this nickel is not just money, it's history, art, and chance all rolled into one. A physical representation of how even in a tightly controlled manufacturing process, unpredictable events can create something extraordinary. For investors, it is an asset whose value is backed by absolute scarcity. There will never be another exactly like it, and its desirability ensures a ready market should it ever be offered again. The 2002 D5-cent error coin stands as a reminder that numismatic treasures are still out there waiting to be found, sometimes in the most mundane places, and that the next multimillion-dollar coin might be sitting unnoticed in a jar of change. So the lesson here is simple. Always check your coins carefully, know the signs of major mint errors, and never assume that a coin from recent years is worthless just because it looks modern. Because as this extraordinary $11 million nickel proves, even the smallest and most ordinary seeming coins can carry the rarest and most valuable stories. Next, 2006 D5-cent coin, we dive deep into the fascinating world of rare coins, numismatic treasures, and the hidden gems that might just be sitting in your pocket change right now. And today we're about to embark on an incredible journey into the story of the 2006 D5-cent coin that has stunned collectors and experts alike by reaching an astonishing value of $8 million. A price tag that seems almost unreal for something most people think of as just a nickel, yet this coin has earned its place among the most valuable modern minting rarities thanks to a combination of unique errors, rare die characteristics, and a remarkable set of circumstances that transformed it from everyday currency into a legendary numismatic artifact. And as we peel back the layers of its story, we'll explore not only the physical and visible mistakes that set it apart but also the hidden possibilities, speculative theories, and collector psychology that fuel its astronomical value in the coin market. So, let's start at the beginning, with the context of 2006, a year in which the U.S. Mint was producing billions of coins, including the Jefferson nickel, at the Denver Mint where this particular specimen was struck. The Denver Mint, known for its D mint mark, has a long history of producing high-quality coins. But even in such highly controlled environments, errors can slip through due to mechanical failures, die wear, human oversight, or unexpected environmental factors during production, and it is precisely such a chain of unlikely events that gave birth to this multi-million-dollar coin. The first thing that grabs the attention of seasoned collectors when they encounter the $8 million 2006 D5-cent is its dramatic double die obverse, where Thomas Jefferson's portrait appears with a ghostly, slightly shifted second image overlapping the first. A clear result of the die striking the planchet more than once without proper alignment, which creates a mesmerizing doubled appearance. On the lettering, the date, and sometimes even Jefferson's eye and mouth, this kind of doubling is not your run-of-the-mill machine doubling that often lowers a coin's desirability, but rather a true hub doubling caused during the die creation process, making it both rare and visually striking. Adding to its appeal is a second, more subtle error, a broad strike that slightly distorts the coin's edge, expanding its diameter just enough to catch the eye of an experienced grader. This broad strike indicates the coin was struck outside of the retaining collar, allowing the metal to spread more than usual, and the result is a nickel that feels different in the hand, and look slightly off compared to standard examples. But the marbles don't stop there, because under close examination with magnification, specialists have noted unusual die cracks stretching across Jefferson's cheek and down toward the rim. Tiny raised lines that are actually fissures in the die that transferred to every coin. Struck afterward, these die cracks are often considered minting imperfections, but in the world of rare coin collecting, they can add intrigue and desirability, especially when they occur on a coin already boasting multiple dramatic errors. Furthermore, the reverse of this 2006 nickel showcases a partial collar strike, giving a slightly tilted and misshapen rim on one side, an anomaly that makes the coin look almost like it's leaning in its own design. The combination of obverse doubling, broad strike, die cracks, and partial collar on the reverse makes this piece an absolute outlier. But why does it reach $8 million? The answer lies not just in its minting errors, but in its rarity, condition, and the market dynamics of coin collecting. According to auction records, only one specimen with this exact set of features has been confirmed, and it was discovered in an uncirculated state, perfectly preserved without any wear from circulation, which means the luster and sharpness of strike are intact, further boosting its value. When you have a coin that is both a unique minting mistake and in pristine condition, you're looking at a perfect storm for skyrocketing value. Another factor driving its worth is the fascination collectors have with modern coins that somehow slip through quality control despite the advanced technology in today's minting process. In earlier eras, errors were more common due to less sophisticated equipment, but in the 21st century, finding something so dramatically flawed is extraordinarily rare, making this coin almost a paradox, a modern relic that looks like it belongs to the age of rougher minting practices. And beyond the mechanical facts, there's the human side of the story, because the coin was discovered by an unsuspecting individual in a roll of nickels purchased from a bank, a casual coin hunter who initially thought the doubling was a trick of the light until they used a loupe and realized the coin was unlike anything they'd ever seen. Their decision to have it authenticated by a top grading service set off a chain reaction that culminated in one of the most intense bidding wars in modern numismatic history, with collectors and investors from around the globe vying for the chance to own what is now considered a once-in-a-lifetime find. Some even see it as a blue-chip asset in the rare coin market, something that will only grow in value as time passes. And it's worth noting that the psychology of rarity plays a massive role here. When there's only one known example of something, it takes on a mythical status, and people with the means will pay almost any price to secure it. The story also fuels speculation about whether there might be more such coins out there, perhaps sitting unnoticed in jars of change, coin rolls, or forgotten mint sets, and this possibility adds a layer of treasure hunt excitement for enthusiasts who now examine every 2006 nickel with renewed hope. The fascinating part is that while each error on its own might make a coin worth hundreds or even thousands, it is the convergence of multiple high-impact errors in perfect condition that transforms an ordinary 5-cent piece into an $8 million phenomenon. And in the realm of numismatics, such convergence is akin to lightning striking twice in the same place, highly improbable, yet mesmerizing when it happens. The coin has since been displayed at major coin shows and featured in numismatic publications, where high-resolution photographs capture every anomaly in exquisite detail, allowing collectors to study its peculiarities and dream of their own discoveries. Debates among experts continue about exactly how all these errors could have occurred on a single coin, with some theorizing that a mechanical malfunction caused the broad strike and partial collar simultaneously, while the double die was an inherited feature from the hub, and the die cracks developed later during a prolonged striking period. Others suggest it could have been an intentional mint error created as a curiosity, though such actions are rare and usually frowned upon. The mystery only adds to its legend, and as time goes on, its value is likely to remain strong, buoyed by its singular status, the fervor of collectors, and the enduring allure of minting mistakes that defy explanation. So if you're a coin enthusiast or even just someone curious about the hidden potential of everyday money, let this $8 million 2065 cent remind you that treasures can still be found in the most ordinary places, and that a keen eye, a bit of knowledge, and perhaps a touch of luck can turn pocket change into a life-changing discovery, and maybe, just maybe, the next incredible find is already in your hands, waiting to be recognized for the numismatic marvel it truly is. Last 2002 Coin dived deep into the fascinating world of rare coins, hidden treasures, and the incredible stories behind them. And today we're exploring one of the most surprising and talked about finds in modern coin collecting history, the 2002 5-cent coin that has stunned collectors and experts alike with an estimated value of $6 million. Not because it's made of any precious metal like gold or silver, but because of the rare and unusual errors and mistakes that occurred during its production, making it an extraordinary piece that serious numismatists dream of adding to their collection. So settle in as we unravel exactly what makes this seemingly ordinary nickel minted at the Denver Mint in 2002 such an unbelievable jackpot, and why people are willing to pay astronomical amounts for it. Starting with the historical and minting context that sets the stage for understanding its rarity. Because in 2002, the United States Mint was producing billions of coins across its facilities, including the Denver Mint, which struck hundreds of millions of nickels that year, most of which were Jefferson nickels featuring the familiar Monticello reverse design by Felix Schlag and the left-facing portrait of Thomas Jefferson on the obverse. But in a tiny fraction of these coins, something went spectacularly wrong in ways that make even seasoned collectors raise their eyebrows. And when we talk about coin errors, there are many types that can occur during the minting process, from die clashes and off-center strikes to doubled dies, clipped planchets, and more exotic mishaps like multiple strikes or misaligned dies. And in the case of the 2002 D5 set valued at $6 million, it is a combination of several rare anomalies that have converged on one coin, creating a perfect storm of numismatic desirability. For instance, some of these error nickels exhibit an off-center strike so dramatic that a large portion of the design is missing while still showing key date and mint mark details, which is crucial because for collectors, the value of an error coin skyrockets if the date and mint mark remain fully visible, since this allows the coin to be identified with certainty. And alongside the off-center strike, this particular specimen is also believed to feature a double die obverse, a striking error where the details of Jefferson's portrait, lettering, or the date appear doubled under magnification due to a misalignment in the die creation process. And what makes a double die valuable is not only its rarity, but also how prominent and easily visible the doubling is to the naked eye, because strong doubling adds to the dramatic visual appeal that collectors seek, and in this case, the doubling is so pronounced that it catches light differently as you tilt the coin, almost giving Jefferson's features a ghostly twin image. But that's not all, because some reports suggest that this coin may have been struck on an improperly prepared planchet, either one intended for another denomination or one with incorrect metal composition, which is a kind of minting blunder that can send values into the stratosphere, especially if confirmed by metallurgical testing. And while most nickels are made from a copper-nickel alloy of 75% copper and 25% nickel, a coin struck on the wrong planchet could have a different weight, color, and sound when dropped, making it stand out immediately to a sharp-eyed collector or coin roll hunter. And considering that errors involving the wrong planchet are among the rarest types of mint mistakes, the possibility of this happening to a 2002 D5 cent makes it an object of intense scrutiny and desire. Now add to this the possibility of a die clash, where the obverse and reverse dies strike each other without a planchet between them, transferring part of each design onto the opposite die and creating ghost-like impressions of reverse elements on the obverse or vice versa. And you have yet another dramatic layer of error complexity, because a coin that combines multiple distinct errors in one piece is exponentially rarer than a coin with just one type of error, And this is exactly why the 2002 D5 cent in question is commanding such jaw-dropping figures in the high-end numismatic market, since collectors recognize that the odds of such a combination occurring, escaping quality control, entering circulation, surviving in excellent condition, and then being discovered intact are astronomically low, which feeds directly into the principle of supply and demand that drives coin values, as the supply here is effectively one of a kind and the demand from elite collectors with deep pockets is intense, pushing the potential auction price into the millions. And of course, provenance plays a role as well. If a coin can be traced through a chain of ownership that includes respected collectors or appearances in major coin auctions, its credibility and desirability increase. And with third-party grading services like PCGS or NGC certifying and encapsulating such a coin with detailed descriptions of its errors, its status in the hobby becomes all the more solidified. And one must also consider the psychological factor at play here, because beyond the technical rarity, coins like this represent the thrill of the hunt. The dream that an everyday object in your pocket change could be worth a life-changing sum, which inspires countless people to start checking their coins, searching bank rolls, attending coin shows, and learning the intricate art of numismatics. And the story of a 2002 D nickel being worth $6 million is exactly the kind of tale that fuels that passion, because it's tangible proof that these extraordinary finds really do happen. And as we imagine the journey of this coin from the moment it left the Denver Mint in 2002, perhaps accidentally mixed into bags of normal nickels, slipping into the flow of commerce unnoticed, traveling from hand to hand over the years, perhaps riding in a cash register drawer, passing through countless transactions, until one day it caught the eye of someone who noticed something was off, whether it was the oddly positioned strike, the doubling of the letters, the unusual color, or the strange ghostly marks, leading them to pull it aside and investigate, and through careful research, weighing, magnification, and perhaps expert verification, they came to realize they had stumbled upon a numismatic unicorn, a true one in a billion coin whose combination of minting mistakes, condition, and survival made it not just rare, but priceless to the right buyer. And that's the magic of these stories, because while most people might overlook a nickel as just another piece of everyday change, the trained eye sees the potential for history, art, and value wrapped into a small metal disc, and it reminds us that the minting process, while highly precise, is still operated by humans and machines that are not infallible, and sometimes those imperfections become treasures worth more than anyone could imagine. So whether you're an experienced collector or someone just starting to check the coins in your pocket, the lesson here is clear. Rare finds can be hiding anywhere, and the 2002 D5 cent worth $6 million is living proof that the next legendary discovery could be waiting for you in the very next handful of change you receive.